Perfect. You can leave it there for now. Good afternoon, Chair Brownsy and Coastal Commissioners. Welcome to June Gloom in San Diego. I'm Mitch Silverstein, San Diego County Policy Manager for the Surfrider Foundation. Surfrider has been involved in sea level rise planning in Del Mar for many years now, and it hasn't always been easy. Today is no exception. As with much of our work around sea level rise, there's not an easy option that will please everyone. The only thing we can probably all agree on is that we wish those train tracks had never been laid across the bluff in the first place back in 1911, if my memory serves. Next slide, please. In considering this proposal, Surfrider is weighing the real coastal access, coastal resource, and public safety issues in this community. We submitted a letter to the Commission outlining the very serious impacts that this project will have on the our public beach in Del Mar, but we support the general aspects of the project in front of you today with staff conditions and further suggested amendments.
Mr. Silverstein, you can move back just a teensy.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I don't think I need the mic.
I totally understand that. I'm the same way.
We should note that the applicant, Sandag, has done a stand-up job working with our community and has clearly done considerable work with your staff to scale back a project that could have been even more devastating to Del Mar's coastline. Your staff's addendum from last night made some great changes too, which we appreciate. Most importantly, we think this proposal facilitates a pathway for long-term relocation of a huge critical infrastructure project. And I'll let Laura talk about what a big deal that is after I sit down. Next slide, please. To address the problem of an unsafe rail which sits on an actively eroding bluff, this commission, however, is still being asked to find Coastal Act consistency with a half a mile's worth of seawall, as well as grading, drilling, and construction efforts on 3/4 of a mile of bluff. Shown here on the left side is what emergency construction of seawalls have looked like. This photo is from the recent emergency repairs after February 2021 bluff failure, and clearly shows how invasive this work can be on the bluff and beach. The map on the right simply shows the total stretch of beach that will have a seawall for up to 30 years, maybe even longer if things don't move as quickly as we hope. While these seawalls are much shorter and more separated than they could have been, they'll drastically change Del Mar's beaches. Additionally, construction will be partly staged on a popular state beach. The aesthetic of this stretch of coast will be changed for an entire generation. Many of us here today won't live to see the day when the train is gone and the beach and bluff is finally returned to the public. Vertical access down to the beach could be lost for up to 7 years or more, depending on regulatory challenges, and lateral walkable beach access is already lost during high tides and will only get worse as a result of seawalls and sea level rise. In light of these issues and the fact that public access improvements recommended by staff, including the safe crossings and vertical beach accessways, haven't really been fully fleshed out in Sandag's Coastal Connection study and may face serious regulatory challenges beyond this commission's approval, Surfrider believes maximum feasible mitigation is appropriate. Effective mitigation is consistent with Coastal Act sections 30251 and 30253 and the recreation and access policies of Chapter 3 cited in our letter, ensures the rail line will be relocated as quickly as possible and provides public access opportunities where other mitigations are not possible. Pass it to Laura.
Laura Walsh for Surfrider. When Surfrider San Diego first started pushing for rail relocation, we chose a target date of 2030 as a place to start our bargaining. We didn't know then how progressive the leadership at Sandag was or how willing to work with the community they'd be. And then Sandag's regional transportation plan included an official commitment to move the train off the bluffs by 2035. And today we have this proposal, which points to a bigger narrative about clear intentions to phase the relocation of a major piece of critical infrastructure in Del Mar. Times change, and they can change again, which is why this permit is so important. We find ourselves now in a greater good scenario. The project won't impact everyone in the same way, and the mitigation won't improve the coastline in a perfect way. All of us here talk about sea level rise trade-offs, and here we finally are, choosing between a beach and access to it. Surfrider does not support seawalls. We do support the clear commitment to adapt to a future of sea level rise in a highly vulnerable place. We support taking advantage of a major opportunity to bring back almost 2 miles of coastline in a city that has struggled with the notion of rising seas. To that end, slide please. The Commission has a major opportunity to make sure relocation actually happens. The addendum has taken some of our suggestions, so thanks to staff. We strongly support the MOU, which can help ensure the public access trails outlast the seawalls and which can better facilitate the approval of safe crossings. The MOU should further clarify a commitment to a homeowner disclosure program that makes clear that seawalls are not for private benefit. SANDAG should also clarify that existing emergency seawalls will be removed along with the other walls we're talking about today. Slide, please. Finally, and I'll allude to Councilmember Gasterlin's comments on behalf of the Del Mar City Council in stating that the impacts of this project to the beach really have not been and could never be fully evaluated. There's no question that the proposed capital improvement projects are robust, but to meet all possible mitigation feasible opportunities in light of the obviously stratospheric costs and the lack of certainty about regulatory influence on these mitigation projects beyond the scope of this meeting, safe crossings should be required at 7th and 11th Street to further improve mitigation. As the addendum points out, the proposed public access components of this project may also not be complete for 5 years before permit extensions, while the seawall should be complete in 3 years. This gap should be addressed with short-term access mitigation projects, which were suggested by us and by state parks in the correspondence at Torrey Pines State Beach. Thank you, and we hope you can find consistency with this project with these amendments.